This is what happens when you allow conservatism to get in power. In Kentucky, Matt Bevin, I believe is his name, Matt Bevin has rolled back. He has unleashed the full force of conservatism on the state of Kentucky, the state that is one of the most, the highest concentration of SNAP benefits, of food stamp benefits, some of the highest levels of poverty in the country, a state that is already struggling. He unleashed it even more with 3 executive orders. The first one, he cut the minimum wage by $3. And actually, I'm trying to pull up. I want to pull up this link because I want to make sure I say everything precisely. I don't want to misstate anything. So I'm pulling up the article. He also, in addition to cutting minimum wage by $3, he also he repealed the ability of ex-felons to vote. So with the signing of one executive order, he undid what the previous governor had done, what the previous governor did, and he rolled back, he took away their right to vote. There's only a handful of states, Florida, where I came from, is one of them, that does not allow convicted felons the right to vote. They are disenfranchised. Once you become convicted, you are now disenfranchised. You can no longer vote. In Kentucky, you could not vote until you had a personal appeal to the governor directly. And with this one action, he has disenfranchised over 140,000 voters that could vote because that law had basically been amended by the previous governor's executive action. And so as soon as Matt Bevin got in office, the Tea Party darling, as soon as he got in office, he undid what the previous governor did and instantly disenfranchised about 140,000 Kentuckians. And to add salt to the wound, his other executive action that day included taking off, remember Kentucky, Kim Davis, the clerk, he removed the clerk's signature from marriage licenses and gave the clerk the authority to assign someone else to sign a marriage license, also that they would not have to sign the marriage license of a same-sex couple. Full conservatism on display. They don't want people to vote. They want to disenfranchise as many people as possible. They want to, I mean, seriously, who goes and says that it's a good thing that we cut the minimum wage? What's the justification for cutting the minimum wage? And then he rolls back the marriage certificates and the requirement that a clerk signs it. Also that Kim Davis and other evangelical fundamentalists don't have to affix their signature to a same-sex couple's license. This is what happens when conservatism gets in power, ladies and gentlemen. These are their goals, right? Look at this. They want to roll back the clock in terms of voting rights. They want to roll back the clock in terms of marriage equality, and they want to roll back the rights in terms of economic prosperity. Except for the business owners, right? Because if you cut the minimum wage, then that does help. To some extent, it helps the business owners, but it crushes the people who depend on these low wage jobs, which is going to further exacerbate the number of people who are on SNAP benefits in the first place. So now you get this cluster F of forces where you have businesses paying people less, more people getting on welfare and food stamps, and now a bigger strain on the federal government food stamp programs and other type of safety net programs. So now they've passed the buck. Matt Bevin has passed the buck of responsibility from the business owners to provide a livable wage for their employees. They passed it from the business owners directly to the taxpayer. And that is the goal all along. I'm saying Matt Bevin. Let me make sure that's his first. Yeah, it's his first. That's the correct first and last name. What the hell did I just say? That's the correct first last. I knew his last name was Bevin. I wasn't sure about Matt, but I was right. Okay. That's the goal. The goal has always been to take the coffers, to take the money that the government collects from the people and send it over either directly or indirectly to businesses that claim to be operating in the free market. But you're not operating in the free market in a government regulation free market when you're benefiting from safety nets. Right? If businesses really wanted to benefit from the free market, what they would do would be to stop taking these indirect subsidies through welfare and pay their employees a livable wage. But Matt Bevin and the Tea Party and conservatives think that it's somehow economically viable and morally right to have a business pay people as little as possible and then get government programs to take care of them, all while vilifying those government programs. Because indirect subsidies is not enough. They actually want to shut down all the safety nets and shove that money directly, straight from the taxpayers, directly to the business owners. This is what happens when progressives don't show up to vote. There was a record low turnout in Kentucky for the election of the governor several months ago, and Matt Bevin won. And this is the result. There are real ramifications to whether or not we vote, and I don't think people realize that sometimes. Sometimes we get caught up on the feeling that 1 out of a million votes is not going to make a difference. But there are real consequences. And then even worse than that, that's like the low-hanging fruit. Even worse than the idea that your vote may not count because of the numbers is this idea that you are somehow intellectually above the fray when you don't subscribe to politics, which happens to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Because even if you don't subscribe and participate in the political system absolutely affects your life every single day. And now for 140,000 Kentuckians, they no longer have the right to vote because they elected or this governor was elected. And now for hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians who work for minimum wage, they've seen their minimum wage cut. And now, of course, the marriage equality thing, they can't see it's bad. What happened with the marriage equality thing was disgusting, but they can't stop gay marriage from taking place. But it's another attempt to chip away at the victories, at the progressive victories that have come lately and come throughout history. But they want to take from us inch by inch by inch by inch, which is why I firmly believe we can't give them a single inch. They'll run and take a mile. That's Kentucky. Matt Bevin has really brought Christmas for conservatives and has brought misery for a lot of people. Do you know, I don't know how many of you listening to me have ever worked for minimum wage. I've worked for minimum wage and taking three, I almost don't believe it. Let me double back because I read the headline and I read the article and now I almost don't even believe it anymore. Here it is. He also reversed former Governor Beshear's increase in the state minimum wage for government workers and contractors. The new wage was $10.10 an hour. Bevin brought that figure back to $7.25 per hour. It's there. So it's just a little less than $3, like $2.85 or something like that, whatever the math is. I mean, absolutely absurd. And it doesn't reach as far as I thought. It is only reaching government workers and contractors, but those government workers and contractors are absolutely going to have to get on, get more subsistence, some more support from the safety nets, which are going to be attacked next, right? His next target is going to be connect the healthcare system. The next target is going to be the SNAP, the access well, really, I don't know. I have to figure out if there's a way he can attack the amount of food stamps that come federally. I'm sure he can make it more difficult at a minimum. He can make it more difficult. But this is the wet dream. This is the fantasy of so many conservatives. And it's very, very important that we realize their agenda. And it's very, very important that we never never just sit out for the sake of sitting out. And we empower people who are just outright crazy. Outright crazy. All right, let me move on.